We'll get started as people still file in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's discussion of the 15% budget cuts proposed for Arab socio-economic development budgets. As we all know, the attacks of October 7th and the ongoing war and the plans for recovery have huge costs for Israel. And the government has been looking at across-the-board budget cuts for the entire state budgets and diverting budgets in other cases. As part of the proposed cuts, there is a series of designated 15% cuts to a bunch of government resolutions. These include and significantly affect the socioeconomic development budgets for Arab society, primarily what we know as GR 550 and its subplans for Negev Bedouin, crime prevention, and others. While the cuts have not yet been approved, the size of the cut and the specific focus on Arab society has raised significant concerns about their impact on the plans and projects underway, what the budget cuts themselves hold in store for Arab society, and more than that, how they affect the trust, the sense of partnership, and the sense of shared horizon that grew around both 550 and the previous plan, 922. To delve into both these aspects with us from a national, civil sector and a local level, we are so grateful to have with us Meir Bing, Director General of the Ministry of Social Equality. This is the government office that is responsible for coordinating implementation of GR 550. Raghad Jaraisy, Co-Executive Director of Sikkuy-Aufoq, who has been key to promoting development and implementation of the plans in a way that are well adapted for Arab society, and Hani Jarjouri, Manager of Resource Utilization and Economic Development in the city of Shfar'am. We will start with a question or two for each presenter and then open for Q&A. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat as we go. We've scheduled 1 hour for this call. If we see that there's more Q&A that wants to be had, our speakers have graciously agreed to stay 10 or 15 minutes further if needed. So with no further ado, Meir, are you in good shape to begin technically?
Yes.
Great.
And I'll show a very small presentation. Can you see it?
Yes.
I can see it also. Okay, so I want to show you the impact of this 5 years plans and in the last 2 years and the previous plan, 5 years plan. So we can see in education of the high school exam, the final exam, that the rate of people who passed this exam increased dramatically for 47% 12 years ago to 69% 3 years ago. And also we can see that in the Jewish, the percentage increases, but the gap between, we still have a gap, but the gap decreases dramatically. We can see it also on the employment rate. Unemployment rate of the employment rate, of men's increases in the last year in 7%, and in women, which is much more dramatically, we can see that it increases from 32% to 45% in the last 5 years. It's amazing, and we will see the effect of this in the future. That I think that we couldn't pray for better results. We can see also in the higher education, the number of Arab students increases dramatically from 10% of the BA students 10 years ago, 12 years ago, to close to 20%. And also in the PhD, you can see it in the MA. So we can see a very good achievement of these plans. But so what, I don't want everything. I just didn't know. Okay. You can see that in the paper of the Prime Minister office, you can see that this is the government decision with the highest implementation rate in 2022. And so we did something well. Unfortunately, now we are talking about cuts of 15% of each of these 5 years plans, of the total plans, the plans of the Bedouins, the plans of the fighting the crimes, and the plans for the ערים משותפות, עכו, לוד, חיפה.
Mixed cities.
Cities.
Cities,
Well-
yes. And unfortunately, another thing is, and we will hear it from Shfar'am, that another cuts of 200 million shekel for each year to the budget that is allocated to the Arab local authorities. And I can explain you that sometimes for any organization, when you cut a development money, so it's hurt, but you can deal without building another sport infrastructure or another road. But if you got a cut of 6 million shekels to your municipality, you cannot pay salaries to the employees or take out the garbage. It's very, very hurt the authorities and all the municipalities. So this is something.
Meir, I'm not sure we're seeing the slide that you want, and I think that you're making a really good point.
Okay, yes, I can see that. I don't know why. Again, I'll do it again.
When you also, while you're doing that, can you say what was the implementation rate, if you have that number offhand?
1 minute. I wanted to. Okay, so I don't know what it's implementation rate. What is the implementation rate? The שיעור ביצוע?
Yeah.
It was 87%, which is amazing for a government plans. And here you can see here you can see the, before you couldn't see it, so this is the implementation rate, 87%, the first implementation rate with all the government decision. Here you can see the cuts of 15% of each 5 years programs that I talked about before, and another 200 million shekel every year for the local authorities. And I need to say that we have also the 5% flat for all the ministries, that we all say that we need to have here also the same flat. Just it should be 5% and not anymore. But I want to say that it is anyway it's a double cut, because if we have a 5% flat in the Ministry of Education and we have less hours in the school, so also the Arab society will get less hours in their school, and they have also a big amount of money of budget to close the affiliation between the budget of Arab student to the budget of allocated to the Jewish student, and also they will have and suffer for a big cut in the education system. Unfortunately, this is the situation right now. I want to say also that yesterday we had in the finance committee a discussion about this, and I really hope that in the next week or 2 weeks we can get an agreement to reduce the cuts, that it will not be 15%, that it will be much less. I don't know, but we are working very hard for this. So I have other things here, but this is what I wanted to show you, which was the important thing.
Thank you. I know that your office did some calculations. The budgets, the government resolutions above that received the 27 resolutions that were targeted for 15% cuts. You did some calculation about why this ended up feeling like such a targeted attack on Arab society. Can you explain a little bit?
Yes. The Minister of Finance said at the beginning that it's not just something about the Arab population. We have 27 decisions. It could be a decision about Tveria or Harish or Bet Shemesh or Yad Ben Zvi, so many organizations and many cities. But we did a calculation, and all these 27 decisions together, it's something around 37 billion shekel. And the Arab society part of this is 33 billion shekel. So over than 85–90% of this, the money of this 27 decision, even if that only 4 decisions is for the Arab society, but in the budget it's it's close to 90%. So it is a cut that is a purpose almost only to the Arab society, and because of that we try to deal very hard to decrease the number.
Also, you began speaking about the difference between the reduction to additive budgets and the 200 million to local authorities.
Yeah.
Can you please explain the difference in impact of those budgets?
Yes, when you have less money to build another school or another kindergarten or another road, it hurts the local authority, and it hurts the citizen there. But they can deal with it, and that it will be built not in 2026, it will be built in 2029. But if they will not get their 5 million shekel to pay salaries, they need to fire 5 or 10 people in their municipality, and they will not give basic services to the local people who live in that city. So for them it's much more important to get this 200 million shekel. And unfortunately we can say that it's something that they deserve to get it. And the Minister of Finance said that there is a calculation, a way of calculation, how any city, how much they should get. And here, the 200, every other places in the education and other places, it is affiliation between the Arab and the Jews, and because of that, they need the money to close the gap. But here, everyone gets the same, and they get another extra because of Mahmoud Abbas was part of the coalition, and he has the power to get another 200 million shekel. And what we know, not just the Ministry of Social Equality, also people who worked in the Ministry of Finance or Minister Internal, they will say that the nuskha, how do you say nuskha in English?
Oh my gosh.
The way of calculation.
The formula. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So the way of calculation is something that basically give more money to Jewish municipalities because they are closer to the border, because they get a lot of people who came from abroad, Aliyah, and so on. So when you look at it about the people of how many poor people you have in your municipality and so on, you can see that they should get more money.
So it is differential in a sense. I think there is a lot of questions, a lot of interest on many of the issues you raised. One, I hope you'll be able to share your PowerPoint because I know people want to read it closely afterwards.
No problem.
We'll come back to the question about what should philanthropy do. I know you had a slide about that. Hopefully we'll be able to get back into it. And details about the process. I know there are also questions, but details, what is the process for working to prevent cuts or overcome cuts to the additive budgets versus working to prevent or overcome cuts to the balancing budgets, the 200 million for the local authorities. So we'll keep those. Hopefully Raghad can also touch on some of those, and we can round out, because each one of these is a very complex set of questions. So Meir, thank you. For the sake of rounding out the conversation, I want to invite Raghad, but stay with us and we'll continue speaking with everybody in Q&A. Raghad, hello. Thank you for being here today. As I said in the opening, Sikkuy has been key to the development and implementation of the socio-economic development budgets for Arab society, ensuring that they're adapted to address the real barriers and needs in Arab society, and that they're more likely to achieve the economic and the social impact that is in their potential. How has your work changed since the cuts were proposed? And you also have a PowerPoint you want to share, correct?
Yes. First of all, thank you, Daron, for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me to take part in this important meeting. I'm going to share also a short presentation. Can you see it like in a full screen or?
Yes, yes, it
Yeah.
looks good.
Okay. Right. Okay. Well, you asked how have our work changed, and I think that since the proposed budget cuts, the whole discussion around it has started, we identified 3 levels of action. 2 are directly, concerning the cuts, and the third one that I'm not gonna refer today, discuss today, is more general. So the first level is the direct level, working on the reduction of the total amount of cuts. Meir has referred to, the 15% of the overall government decisions for the Arab minority, and 200 million shekels per year for the balancing budgets that were included in the government decision for the amendment of the budgets of 2024. So one main level of action is trying, before the final approval of the 2024 amendments of the budgets, to reduce the total amount of the cuts to the minimum possible. And of course, if we can prevent it, that is much better. The second level is the level of working with the relevant government ministries to ensure the commitment of the relevant ministries to continue investing in social economic development of the Arab society through those government decisions and the implementation and continuation of the implementation of those government decisions. And I will talk more about this shortly.
Right.
And the second level is a more broader level. And that is ensuring the continuation of the gap reduction policies during the war and the day after, because we are in a very crucial times of war and times of starting to think about rebuilding and repairing the damages of the war. A lot of policies are on the table of discussion. A lot of resources and budgets are going to be allocated in this year and the coming years. And it is very, very important that the needs and demands of the Arab society are put in front of decision makers at this stage, and budgets and resources are allocated and will be allocated for the needs of the Arab minority. Because if we only preserve what is there today, we will not be able to continue the very important process of narrowing of gaps for the upcoming years.
Yeah, I think we have heard in different places that, and it's not an cynical thing to say that even with 15% cuts, you have more than 4 billion per year in budgets, and there's a lot you can do with that. So I think I appreciate your point. Tell us a little bit more about how you think cuts, even if there's money left, affect the deeper trends and policies.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna talk again about the cuts. Meir talked about it, for 15% of the additional budgets and 100% cut in the additional balancing budgets for 3 years. And here it's very important to say that the government decision includes a 5% general cut in the whole flat cut of the whole government budgets for 1 year, for 2024. Where the budgets for the Arab minority, the cut in the budgets, is for 3 years, meaning that it is not only more in percentage than the general cut, it is also a 3 years cut for 24 to 26, and not only for the next year. Now, let's talk about the process. Where are we standing today, and what can we do in order to prevent or reduce the cuts? In January, the government approved a government decisions with all the reductions in the budget for 2024. According to the law, the process is that there are 2 more stages before the final approval of the budget. The second stage, where are we standing today, is the discussions and voting in the Knesset Committee of Finance, where it has the authority to discuss specific cuts and amendments of the budget and to vote on them. And only after the approval of this committee, the Knesset votes with the second vote and third vote on the and finally approves the cut. And we think that this is the most crucial point where we can influence the final decision, because we know that there's a strong coalition, and any final draft that will reach the table of the Knesset for the final voting is going to be approved. So this is the most important and last opportunity to really affect the final draft of the budget. And there are two things happening at the same time on the Knesset Committee of Finance. There's the public discourse and the public discussion where everybody can participate and can, of course, speak in favor or against the cuts. And Meir referred to the very important discussion that was held yesterday, specifically on the cuts of the Arab minority budgets, and there we were very happy to see almost all the bureaucracy level of the government ministries come and speak in favor of the reduction of the cuts and the importance of the government decisions. And really what happened is, at the end of the discussion, the head of the committee asked all the bureaucracy level of the ministries to go back to the ministers and really discuss the possibility of a reduction and come back to the ministry and report to the committee and report to the committee within a week. So we will wait to hear what happens on that level. But in addition to the public discussion, there's, I think, at least as important discussion and negotiation happening behind closed doors, where the head of the committee and the members of the committee discuss the general cuts, not only the cuts for the Arab minority, and negotiate them with the Ministry of Finance. And here they have great influence of the Ministry of Finance. They can just keep the decision on the table until they reach agreements. And we think that if we can put or convince those people sitting around the table of negotiation that the reduction of cuts of the Arab minority is one of their top priorities in the negotiation, we will succeed. And that's why we are doing great efforts, both on the level of the press and media and trying to, do public advocacy and affect the public discourse around the cuts. Also on the level of dissemination of information, we are trying to tell the story of the importance of those government budgets. And I think you're our partners in this, and we all have a role in just emphasizing today, even more than ever, how much those government decisions are crucial and important and should continue, and what are the direct implications of the reduction in those budgets, both the government decisions and the balancing budgets. And maybe an example, one of the things that we do also is we try to deal with the lies that are really disseminated to deal with the claims against the cuts. For example, one of the greatest lies is that 15% is not that crucial for the government decisions. It's only 15%. We're all suffering from the war. Cuts should be done, and of course, we do not argue that cuts should happen, and there are a price of the war that we're all gonna pay. But as Meir said, 550 is the highest implemented government decisions among all government decisions. The implementation rate is 87%, and that's only year one. If we compare it to 922, for example, that was also a very important government decision, year one of 922 ended with 22% implementation rate. And it is known that year one is the most problematic year in terms of implementation, because the system is still getting acquainted and learning how to deal with and implement the government decisions. So the implementation rates are just going to go up, and those are very, very important government decisions. Not only that, even if there's money left from 2022, those are ongoing government decisions, and money can be transferred from year one to year two to year three of the government decision, and that is something that is used and done. So that's one thing that we're trying to convince and to talk about. And Yeah, Liron, you have a question?
No, it's okay. Finish up.
Okay. And so we think this is a very, very crucial moment. We think that we should be doing everything to try and affect all decision makers and people who have direct influence on decision makers, all members of the Knesset. We're talking to everybody, coalition, opposition, members of the finance committee, the government and ministers, really everybody, in order to keep this issue top priority for as much people as possible. That is the only way we can affect or influence the negotiation and maybe change the final draft of the decision. In addition to everything that we're doing in order to reduce the total amount of the budgets, there is also a very, very important role for us all in our direct relationship with the different ministries in order to make sure that they are still committed to the implementation of the budgets in two ways. First of all, I think a lot of you know, the government decisions has part of the money of the budgets that are but direct budgets, additional budgets from the Ministry of Finance. And the other part is budgets that come from the ministries themselves. Now, when there's a risk for cuts, and maybe if the cuts, God forbid, happens, what can happen is that ministries say, okay, well, if I don't get money from the Ministry of Finance, I'm not going to put my money in this. So there will be further reduction in the government budgets for this, the implementations of the plan. And also, we should remember that all ministries are facing the general 5% flat cut in the budgets. They can decide to, reduce those 5% from the budgets to the Arab society. So it's very, very important to make sure that all government ministries are committed and are going to be continue allocating the budgets for the government decisions. In addition, if any budget happens, there's a very big role for civil society and for the Arab society to try and reprioritize how the money left is going to be allocated, and of course that the money is allocated for the most important things in order to harm as less as possible the government budget decisions in the upcoming years. And just
we have about we have 1 minute, and I want to say something about philanthropy, and then we'll be able to come back.
Okay, so do you want me to stop here and
I think the symbolic level is really important.
I just want to say that the implications of this cut is not only on the implementation of the government decisions. It's also on the general and symbolic level. It's another step in the process of deteriorating the status of the Arab society as a result of the war. The Arab society has suffered from silencing attempts, incitement, and delegitimization of their opinion or positions on the war or general discourse in Israel. And I think that this is seen as another step, another government step on that process of really affecting the status of the Arab society. And one last sentence, Liron, I think that one of the great things that those government decisions did in the last years is that they built kind of an infrastructure for partnership based on trust between Arab society, civil society, and the government. And I think that those cuts will affect this structure, this very, very important infrastructure. And I think that it will take us years to repair it if we do not stop this process and reduce the cuts for the minimum possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raghad, but I don't want to let you go just yet. Before we go to the local level and how this is already affecting, we're here in a foundation forum discussion. We held off with Meir for Q&A, but if you can say a few words, how do you see philanthropy being an ally and a supporter on both the symbolic and operational level?
First of all, philanthropy has good relationship with the government as with the Arab society and the civil society. I think that we all should be using this relationship in order to try and really raise the a clear voice against the cuts in those budgets. It shouldn't be publicly. It can also be behind closed doors, but it is very important that we all speak on behalf of the reduction or the prevention of the cuts. I think also that it is a very crucial time to continue investing in the Arab society, both as a sign of trust and as a sign of commitment to equality and to partnership. And I think that I can identify the Arab local authority as a key players now in these days and with this government precisely. And I think that we should all be helping them and supporting them to be able to, fight the reduction of the budgets, but also to be able to deal with all the problems and that the war and the day after is going to put on their doors. So that's in general.
Okay, and a quick question from Alan Divak about, is there any idea of when the actual final decisions will be made? Do you have a projection?
Yeah, the government decision was put on the table of the Knesset on February 8th. And according to the law, it should be voted on within a month. So we expect the voting to be at the beginning of March, but laws can be amended, especially when you have a strong coalition. So they can play with that and postpone the voting. We don't know, but we think that it will come to the final voting at the beginning of March, maybe 8th, 9th.
Okay, I'm gonna thank you so much. I'm gonna invite Hani so we can hear, you spoke about the impact on local authorities. Hani Jarjouri, thank you for joining us. You started working as a Mematzeh Mashabim, a Mawarid integrator in Shfar'am in November 2020, still at the end of the period of 922, the first 5-year plan. Can you tell us what GR 550 has meant for the city and how you see the significance of the proposed cuts, both just the proposed cuts and the potential impact of actual cuts?
Well, hello everyone. First of all, I would like to thank all parties for really addressing this issue and putting the spotlight on the proposed cuts. Hopefully that we can make some change for the better. I have started working in the municipality of Shfar'am in the last months of November 20, at the last days of the first government resolution 922. And for the past 3 years, I have been working firmly with the ministries on utilizing and recruiting many budgets for the local authority of Shfar'am. And just to, showcase on how the government resolution 550 made an impact on just one municipality. For the past 3 years, we have succeeded in recruiting and utilizing and in implementing almost more than 90 million shekels from almost every ministry. So it forms, 90 million shekels is basically a third of the annual budget for a municipality like Shfar'am, which has almost 43,000 residents, which is, it's not a small town. After 3 years of this success, and multiply this with another 35 plus authorities that are implementing the same budgets from the resolution, you can basically understand how much important this resolution is for the Arab society and for local authorities, as we are the ground where the last station of this pipeline for this resolution, and it is making a great impact
Can you give us
last year.
Can you give us some examples of how even the talk of the cuts are already affecting your ability to pull funding, and maybe a couple of examples of what they mean for projects you already began?
As Meir said and Raghad mentioned, the cuts. Let's say that the main impact of the resolution 550 is that it gives us the opportunity to make economic development, and for doing that we need to implement and utilize millions of shekels to the local authorities to move on from to be able to be self-dependent and have self revenues from local projects. The cuts informally, is starting. We are starting to feel the cuts in an informal way. We have tenders that we planned to apply for that were canceled. I will give you an example of two tenders that we applied for, renovating two schools in Shfar'am that were denied, and because of the budget cuts that are planned to be planned to go through, and this already is making a negative impact on our authority. It means that 2 million shekels for two schools, that one of them is leaking, has a leaking roof, and we are unable to do the renovations this year or maybe next year. So it is making a negative impact already on our local authorities, and we are, that is just one example, but if you multiply this example of informal cuts that are made now for Shfar'am with another 35 municipalities and local authorities in the Arab society, that means that we have tens of denials of budgets that are going on right now, and that's before the formal decision was to be made.
One of the strengths of your position of having a Mawalid resource person in the local authority is your ability to connect with government ministries. How has that relationship been affected?
Basically, after the 7th of October, the intent of the ears of the government and on all ministries, on all levels of the ministries, they are derived to the issue of the war and on budget cuts. But I want to say that we can't find any discussion or direct discussions with ministries. All our needs are now fall on, I don't want to say what I'm intending to say, that we are feeling that we don't have any partners right now in the ministries, and all our needs are now diverted to emergency only needs. And that's not, you know, that's not the impact that we are you know, we are thriving through.
In our discussions before this call, you mentioned projects, revenue generating projects of a sports center and a cultural center that have been subsidized partially already by 550 projects that may either be delayed or stopped if the cuts go through. But you also mentioned another issue which is really important to raise, which is the issue of crime. And we know that budgets are, and economic development is closely related to the issue, the skyrocketing issue of personal security in Arab society. How do you expect that to affect a town like Shfar'am or Arab society?
We have many plans for the youth, and really we are planning so many local activities for the youth, and to, you know, to get to this point that we, like Meir said, investing in education and in schools and in young people and young you know, the young people of Shfar'am and all the Arab society. We need to invest a lot of budgets, and some of these programs are, you know, we feel that they are in danger, and if we don't, you know, don't target this issue that is already making its toll on Arab society, and we are, as you know, as a municipal clerk, telling myself that we are going to work in, you know, unsecured area. It's you know, they are already targeting officials in local authorities, and
You mean crime organizations and shootings?
Crime organizations, yes, they are targeting you know, yeah, so, we have some cases that they some
some professionals in some
professionals in the
decision
were targeted,
makers.
and if we don't target this issue right now, we will be in much negative situation in like 4 or 5 years from now. And we you know, it took us almost 3 years for me personally to build a strategy on how to develop the city of Shfar'am. As you mentioned, we have 2 major projects that we are working on today, which is the sports center and the cultural center. These projects come from Government Resolution 550. It's their money. And these projects are very, very, very important for the city of Shfar'am. The culture, sports, youth, they are also generating revenue projects, so we can, you know, slowly be independent in our normal budgets, so we can, you know, make a self-development capabilities for our future.
Thank you so much for that drop into Shfar'am and the impact on someone trying to connect between the national and the local level and address the people who are supposed to receive the services and build their future.
I have to say that you know, the residents, I can speak only for Shfar'am, but I'm feeling this on all levels in my society. The implementation, the 87% implementation of 550 is physically shown in our local sphere. It's not only budgets, it's not only in the media. We see the projects, we see the development, and I have to say that on personal level, this is a way we, you know, as a resource utilization manager, this is the most important impact that basically 550 brought to the Arab society, brought to the local authorities, that we moved from just getting some money from the government to really utilize and build strategies and implement. I think this is the first really ever government program that showed a high implementation rate, even in the Jewish community, in the Jewish, community
to
or
Jewish, yeah.
the cities. And for us, it's a great success, and we can't go back. We feel that this hard work and this is trust that we worked so hard to build with 15 ministries of the government, and we really can't go back to what we were before. It's very important to prevent or lessen the cuts. We have to move on with. I basically have 5 or 6 another projects that I'm planning for 2024, and I'm really afraid that I can't even do anything. I know it's wartime, and as Raghad said, we have to all be in the same boat for putting our hand and help as much as we can. However, we have to.
I can only imagine the pressure that you're under in your position, and I really appreciate you taking us down to feeling it with you. We only have 13 minutes, so I want to make sure we have time for Q&A. And on the note that what you're saying, how important it is, I want to go back to one of the first questions that was asked after Meir spoke. And Meir, I don't know if you can share again the slide about philanthropy from your presentation, and take us through a little bit, given the complexity of the sensitivity of the overall circumstances, the fact that there is a war, there are statewide cuts, and yet it is still important to emphasize that there's a sensitive issue of the future of Arab society and the entire win-win framing that had been developed over the last 15 years, I'd say. Take us to what you think the role of philanthropy can be, and then Raghad, we'll hear from you again. Meir, you're muted. You're muted again. There we go.
Yes. Okay. 2 things I want to say before that, and the first is that unfortunately I will finish my job in the end of this month, but we work very hard all this period of time to build the trust between the government, the civil organization, and the local authorities, and all the Arab society. And I think that we did a good job in the last 2 or more years. And especially after the war began, we continue to deal with it, and we share with it in another presentation 2 months ago. The war room, the Hamal that we opened in Kfar Kasem with the local authorities together. And there are a lot of effects of the war about the Arab society and all the Jewish society here, and the ability to live together. And I think that we should work very hard, all of us, together, all of the organizations that are here, philanthropy, the organization, the local authority, the government, that we will continue to think how we can live together, the Jewish and the Arab in Israel, and how we can live together, work together. And this is the main issue that I can see right now. And of course, if we have a big cuts, it will make a lot of damage, even more of the effect of the cuts. Because of that, we are working very hard to reduce the cuts, and I hope and I think that we can reduce the cuts, but unfortunately, I'm not sure. And we will have this answer soon. And I think that we need all together to remember that even if the cuts will approved, it still be something around 5 billion shekel for every year that the government will allocate to the Arab society. And it's it's a lot of money. It's something around in the 922 program that was the program before, it was less than, it was half of it. So we should remember that even if the cuts will be approved, we will continue to work dramatically and hard to fulfill this 550 program. And I hope that the people that will replace me continue to do whatever we did before. And I think that your job is to help us, the three levels: government, municipality, and the local organization, civil organization, to fulfill this program, to provide us and help us to live together, to help the local authorities, and so on. I think that it's very important for them. We have something special programs like the gap year and programs that they can learn Hebrew and so on. And the local authorities need something to allocate a budget for a small amount of budget that they can get a budget from the government. And sometimes they do not have this budget. So if they get help from you for a project in Revacha, in how do you say?
Welfare.
In welfare, it's very important for them, or to build some building and so on. So this is the thing that I think that is very important, and we think and to do how we live together.
Thank you. And just to make it clear, the 15% hasn't been defined. What 15% from which aspect of the budget, right? That's for a later stage in ongoing negotiation. And another detail is that, from what I understood, is the 200 million balancing budgets. That's also often the source from which local authorities pull matching funds, correct? Raghad, I see you nodding. Perhaps, yes, okay. Perhaps, Raghad, you want to pick up and speak a little bit more about the engine that was created between that helped to build the trust between the national and the local, to make sure implementation was good, and how you are thinking right now. I know so much focus is on the preventing the cuts, but assuming it happens, what do you hope the philanthropy, how do you see the role of philanthropy in the long run, if it's not just leveraging existing funding?
First of all, I agree with everything that Meir Bing, and I'm very happy to hear it from Meir, as someone who was really in the higher level of the bureaucracy, in government officials involved in the development and implementation of the government decisions. And I think that this is a result. I think that the fact that Meir and I agree on the importance of the government decisions and against the reduction, or in favor of the reduction of the cuts, this is a great success of the government decisions for social and economic development in the Arab minority. And this is a direct result of the trust that was built or is in the process of improving from year to year. And I think that is one of the great risks of the general government policies towards the Arab society since the beginning of the war, since October 7th, and precisely the reduction. I think we all should be thinking on how we support this very, very important triangle that was built and established prior to 922 and then strengthened afterwards, the triangle of civil society, Arab local authorities, and government. I think that this is very important. I think that the philanthropy had a role in and invested in this triangle of relationship. And I think that the philanthropy has a role in strengthening it in the upcoming years, on maintaining what has been achieved, but not also, as I said in the beginning, I think that the big story is not only what we achieved, but also how can we continue narrowing and closing gaps in the upcoming years. We cannot continue doing what we did until now. The war is a major event. We should all be thinking about how can we make sure that also in this crazy times, the needs and the demands of the Arab minority are part of any future policy in Israel. I really look at this period as like not in the circumstances, but in the policy level as a day before 922. There was great big policies, coming in, and we all work together in order to make sure that this policy is as relevant and as appropriate and fills the need of the Arab minority as much as possible. I think that we are a day before big policies, big budgets, and resources for repairing and rebuilding the day after the war. And we should be also thinking about this and our role as civil society, as Arab society, and as philanthropy in continuing the reduction of gaps in the day after.
So let's use the last few minutes to ask about this though. So now Meir is not only agreeing with you. I think Meir, you've been on media throughout Israel in these last few weeks making a very strong case for preventing the cuts from your position at the ministry. How, if we're once again at a pinnacle moment before policy changes on a very deep level, policy directions are influenced. How is today? What is the challenge today? What is the counter argument? How is today different than the day before 922? What are the challenges that you are facing that that make the landscape a little bit different? In a couple of minutes, Raghad, Meir, maybe you can tackle that one. Who does anybody? That's Meir. Do you have thoughts about that? I don't know if you were there in the beginning of 922.
No, I was not there, and I'm sorry I didn't listen everything. Can you replace the question?
How, if Raghad is saying that we're at a formative moment before before new policy directions potentially take hold in Israel after 15 years of promoting socioeconomic development, how, if you had to summarize how the new how the situation has changed, what are the new challenges? What should we be mindful of? What do you how would you describe them?
I think that this war changed many things in Israel. I think that we can see right now especially the tension between the Jewish and the ultra-Orthodox communities. And I think that the next phase will be between the Jewish and the Arab societies. And I think that we should work very hard to see how we can live together. And I think that the Arab people who should go to Sharut Ezrachi, it's not a service of the Arab, it's a civil service, in hospitals, in the local authority, and so on. It's something that they didn't wanted to do before. They are doing that right now, something around 4,000, 5,000 each year, but I think that they should do it more. And I think that they start to see today that it's something that is so more common than before, but still many people think that they do not need to do it. And I think that we need to give them all to close all the gap. It's our duties, but I think that the Israel society wanted them to be part of the country also for the other side. So
I just want to say, this was my fault for asking such a big question 2 minutes before 1. I see some people had to go. We can stay for a few more minutes because I feel like I'm sure that both Raghad and Hani have a response to this question. So I just want to make it clear if anybody has to go. I see a few people already had to drop off. Please do so. Otherwise, let's stay and give a chance for you to finish your thought. And Raghad and Hani to say one more thing. And this is being recorded and will be shared with everybody. And everyone who registered in our entire Alan can stay for hours. Okay, I don't think we have hours. So Meir, I'm sorry, if you want to finish your thought, I just saw that it turned.
No, I said what I wanted to. I will love to hear what Hani and Raghad say.
Okay. Hani, you said you wanted to respond, and then Raghad?
Yeah, I just want, I think that the Arab society, I want to refer first of all to 922. 922 for us, I felt that it was in the last days of 922, and I felt that 922 was a true intent of the government to really invest in Arab society. 550 made the bigger change and the bigger impact. But I want to remind everyone that for us, for local authorities on the local level, it takes us years to develop projects. It's a 5-year plan. And many of the projects that we are working on needs more than 5 years to implement. So we have to remember that in 3 years from now, 2 years, 3 years from now, the 550 will end. And we will be stuck with no more budgets. I hopefully that there will be another new resolution and more budgets and bigger budgets for Arab society. But we have to remember that the risk of not approving a new resolution is there. So if we can't utilize all the ability of 550 for us, I think that will be a very, very, very risky and slippery road that we will tackle in 2 or 3 years from now. We need 3 or 5 government resolutions like 550 to just close up the gaps. It's 550 is 33 billion shekels, but just for the municipality of Shfar'am, I need more than 900 million shekels, and that's for to be able to develop one municipality and one Arab country and one Arab local society. So just to take that
Thank you for that sense
in
of
your
scale
mind for future thoughts.
and perspective. Raghad, would you like to yes?
I just want to say that the day before 922, everybody was very invested and concentrated in the social and economic development. And I think we don't have this privilege today to concentrate only on social and economic development, because there are additional great threats to the shared society in Israel and the partnership between Arabs and Jews. There is mutual fear. There is, I think, kind of a process of isolation between the societies. And, we've seen it in the academia, in working places. We've seen it in the number of Arabs who were fired, that really jumped since the beginning of the war, with the silencing attempts and the incitement against the Arab society. We see it today with the Ben Gvir arming civilians policy. There are great threats from within, from inside, to the security of all of the citizens of Israel, and not only from the war. And I think that we should be involved also in the continuation and preserving and development of social and economic development, but also on shared society, on partnership, on our ability as human beings to continue living together in this place. And I think this is as important as social economic development. And on the level of the civil service, I disagree with Meir, but we will leave this for another webinar, maybe.
That sounds good. On that note, I want to thank everyone so much. I hope that we were able to give the urgency and the overview and the basic facts about what is pending right now. I know that in terms of implications and how you leverage around it, there's so much more to discuss. Thank you for everyone who stayed with us, and hopefully those of us who are watching the recording got through to the end as well. Thank you all.